Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington, where you will hear from the movers, shakers, and changemakers that are moving Greater Burlington forward. Here is your host, Stephen Brody.
Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington. I'm your host, Stephen Brody. Jennifer Glendening is the owner of Barn on the Ridge, and we are so excited to have her with us today. Jennifer, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
You know, there was a time several weeks ago where I came and I visited you at your lovely facility. You gave me a great tour, and you told me the story about Barn on the Ridge, and I just found it so fascinating that I wanted to give you the opportunity to share that with folks. And perhaps by people hearing your story, it could serve as an inspiration, and it could serve as motivation for folks to be able to say, I can do this. If I have an idea, I can do it, and I can see it through to reality. And so why don't you just start with the basics? You know, what is Barn on the Ridge, and what services does it provide, and where's it located?
Yeah, so again, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to talk a little bit about us today. So we actually opened up in 2014. We are a wedding and event venue, barn style, pretty much. A little bit fancier than a normal Iowa barn, but yeah. And so, you know, it was always a dream of mine. I was actually a dental hygienist. That's what I went to college for. I did that for 11 years, and always just kind of thought maybe there was a little bit something else out there. I loved my job. I loved my patients, but you know, you just kind of feel like there is maybe something else out there. So,
Where'd the idea come from?
Well,
then?
We had went to kind of a similar venue out of town for a family wedding. And I said to my husband, gosh, this is exactly what I would want to do. I loved the whole concept. You know, we didn't want to do the food, and I didn't want to do the bar side of things. So that was always kind of a hang up for me. But, you know, we kind of just started to dream, basically. We went to this place. It was awesome. Again, you could pick your own vendors, and it was just a beautiful place. So we kind of left there with this like dream in my heart. So I always joked there for the following years I would clean teeth and write down ideas on how I think I would want my wedding venue to be.
Yeah.
And then, you know, luckily I have a supportive husband. So he said, you know, we could just start putting things down on paper.
Yeah. And
kind of deciding, you know, maybe if this is something financially that we could look into. So we did all of those things and, you know, approached our bank, and the bank didn't say no. So that was a good thing. They kind of just said, hey, you know, that's interesting. And so we just started talking from there. And yeah, I mean, once the bank was kind of on board with all of those things, of course, the next step was where. Mm-hmm. And we wanted, you know, outside of town a little bit, but not too far. And luckily, we just got real lucky. Some land had come up for auction, and we were able to purchase that. And from there, it just rolled out. So, you know, we designed the barn ourselves, put everything down on good old-fashioned graph paper, and had taken it to...
Wow, graph paper
yes,
still exists.
We hand drew all of it out, and then, of course, went to Menards and kind of said, help us. And so from that point forward, we were able to get blueprints drawn up. And yeah, you know, from that point forward, we were able to... We general contracted it. We have some construction, experience in our past, and so we were the general contractors. But with a great crew, we were able to execute it. We actually built it in 11 weeks because we were so far behind with the weather. So our goal was to have it done by June. Our original hope was to break ground in March. Well, It was kind of a year like this where winter just didn't want to go away. So we actually didn't get to break ground until the second week of April. So we hit the ground running and never stopped.
And your idea of the design, was that your idea, or had you done some research and seen how others were?
Both. I mean, you know, we kind of looked at pictures, but again, you know, we did all of it. We hand drew it out. And so, you know, as you start picking materials, it's kind of like, oh, you know, what if this doesn't look good together? So some of it kind of, the black trim on the inside kind of came last minute. The cedar on the walls, we did a rough sawn cedar. I didn't want it to look fake. I didn't want it to look like paneling. So we had something already in mind, but I just wasn't set on it. And at the last minute, my husband said, what about this? And it was like this rough sawn cedar. And so we did that, and I'm so glad it all came together, and it looked really good. So
were you able to find your materials easily?
Yes. I mean, back then, luckily, prices were not what they are today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were very lucky. We actually both worked at Menards our whole through high school, and so luckily we knew, and that was the old store, so we were able to walk in there and know pretty much everything. So they treated us very well, and we ordered from some other areas. Companies around here as well. So, but yeah, I mean, we were able to keep everything fairly local, which we were thankful for.
So from the time that you had this conceptual idea to the time that the building was built, how long would you say that was?
So the wedding we had went to was in June of 2012.
Okay.
And then from that point forward, I literally never stopped thinking about it.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I just kind of thought, this probably is never going to happen. Things like this don't typically happen to people like us because, it was the financial means of where do you go from here kind of thing. And so luckily we had done some other investments and, bought some rental properties that had given us a great relationship with our bank. And so that helped us tremendously. But so from 2012 I think we presented it to the bank about 8 or so months later.
Yeah.
We ended up purchasing the land in 2013 and broke ground in April of 2014.
Wow.
So...
were you comfortable with that time frame? Was that what you were hoping, or were you like, this should have been done already?
No, I mean, again, it was so up. I don't want to say up in the air, but there's a lot of obstacles, that you don't realize that you have to kind of basically hurdles that you have to jump over, and every time you would hit one, you think, oh, this might be it.
Like, for example, what was one?
The sprinkler system was one of the things that we didn't have to do because we were in the county, but since we wanted to, of course, do everything, as right and as safely as possible, we decided to put one in because, again, we didn't want to get to the point where we were past the installation and then have to go back and do it. So just getting the water lines ran and trying to figure out, because it's rural water, so trying to get that line ran through, it's just things like that just when you think you jump over one hurdle, you'd get to another one and you think, oh my gosh, maybe this is what's going to stop us. But luckily we just kept being able to jump over them. And so when it was time to go, it was time to go. Yeah. And it was still so like wishy-washy up to that point. I mean, we were pretty sure it was going to happen, but you just didn't know if it was going to happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and then again, with the weather the way it was, like we were so anxious, and our excavator was like, the ground's still frozen. Like there's nothing we can do. So we were out there bugging him, please go probe it. Can we do it now? Can we do it now? So, so then, it was kind of a whirlwind. Once it was time, it was time. And so we were already, 2 weeks behind because we had our first wedding scheduled June 21st.
Oh, wow. So you were scheduling before it was finished.
So that was the other thing, right? You had to, and I'll put a little plug in on, with the partnership, how I got introduced to the partnership was our bank was, had said, the Greater Burlington Partnership is running at that time. They did the business plan writing competition. And so they were like, we think you need to get a business plan. And so not having a lot of business background, I was like, okay. So my husband and I went to work on that, did our homework, wrote up a business plan and actually entered that class. And so it was really nice. I got hooked up, with a bunch of people and that was a great outlet too. So I always say the partnership has helped us, tremendously to get to that point.
Yeah.
But so we did the business plan writing competition, won first place, which was awesome. So that gave us a little bit of money. And it also helped tremendously with just getting our name out there as far as, being legit, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So, you have this idea in our heads, this is what we wanted it to look like. But nobody really knows who you are. So
that's right.
That helped kind of give us a little bit, of more clout. And so we actually did we started advertising and that helped. But then we did the bridal fair that January of 2014 with no building.
Oh, wow.
So I had this picture book and I still have it somewhere of just a floor plan and pictures and ideas. And, my husband built these wonderful barn doors, because we had to have some kind of backdrop. And so we went to the bridal fair and we were able to book, I think we had 18 events booked before we even broke ground.
See that, and that's fascinating. How is that? How does that happen? Because you don't have it ready to open, but you're basically saying,
I promise.
Yeah.
Give me your money. I promise I'm going to deliver this. Yes. And so I laugh now because
You must have been a good salesman.
Well, I guess, I got really lucky. And so back then too, there weren't coffee shops. There weren't places to meet. So I ended up meeting a lot of people in the mall food court. Okay. So, I just wonder. And my favorite was like, you'd see these dads like with their arms crossed, shaking their heads like, this is just ridiculous, because I'm promising all of these things and they don't know me. And so, but that was even more of ammunition for me to get this done.
Yeah.
To show them that I'm not fake. We're not, just taking their money kind of thing. Yeah. And so it was really rewarding to be able to promise these things and be able to fulfill it in the time frame that we said.
Did you have some sort of an opt-out or something where it was like, if we're not open by this?
We always gave them a cancellation. We always have and still have a 6, back then I think it was a 6 months. We do a 9-month cancellation policy.
Yeah.
So a lot of these girls, yes, were booking out far enough that they would have possibly had a backup plan-ish. But yes, we're on, we would have never... If we wouldn't have been ready and if we would have dropped the ball, money would have been given back with no questions asked.
Did you do anything, Jennifer, in your past that prepared you to be an event planner? All the things that go into putting on a venue like this?
Just helping with, parties in the past of friends but no, nothing. And that was the funny thing because, I was a dental hygienist, of course, until I did this. And then, you pick out the stuff and you pick out, the items that go inside and what it looks like. And then, my goal was to be where I am today and be an event wedding planner. But I didn't have any experience. So I didn't exactly promise that. So when I booked these events, it was like, here's our building. I'm here. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll take the trash out and I'll clean a spill and I'll move tables and chairs. The physical labor was always part of the barn, but the planning side of things I didn't promise right away because I didn't feel like I had it in me to do that.
Yeah.
So, and this is going to sound silly. I don't know if I really knew how important it was to have somebody like that until you started being there at events, and you needed that neutral person that wasn't a mom or a family member because you wanted somebody that doesn't have to work that can be there to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
So you notice like the DJ would have an itinerary and sometimes the caterers were told a different time. Sometimes things change. Or brides, they're like, I don't know. And the caterer says, well, how about we do it this way? And the DJ says, how about we do it this way? So it's kind of nice to have that person, that would be that neutral
Some
contact.
people go to school for that kind of training.
Yeah.
You didn't.
I did. I just on the job.
Wow.
So it started off, I'd be there, I'd watch things and I'd see what needed and I'd start making notes. Or a lot of people are now doing the getting ordained online as a friend or a family member, which is neat because that, it's more of an intimate experience with those people, but then those people have never done it before. Mm-hmm. So you needed that somebody to kind of say, look, you do that part because that's super important. I can't do that part. Let me do the stuff that you don't really want to do, which is wrangle everybody up, tell them when to go, and just basically keep order. Mm-hmm. And so taking notes, and so from that point forward, I've, written down stuff and I have forms that they fill out now. And so the meeting side of things is something that you don't realize how important it is. Not only, of course, you get the details worked out and it eases their minds to know that we're here to say, look, you don't have to worry about any of that. We'll take care of it.
And you've got a lot of vendors that then you had to research to get you the
Absolutely.
supplies.
Well, I do a lot of, I have a vendor list for people. And so I like, because we basically are the house and we get to help employ local people as well. So I have a vendor list of people. You don't have to use anybody on it, but there's food, there's DJs, there's flowers. And so we get a lot of out of town people. A lot of people that aren't from Burlington. So it's actually an honor to be able to pull people into our area. I haven't sat down and did the statistics, but I would guess about 80% of our clientele are not from Burlington.
What are you attributing that to? How are you getting your message out?
Social media and word of mouth. I get very lucky with those things because if you think about each event that you have is around anywhere between 150 to 280 people. There's not a lot of platforms out there that reach that many people, regularly every weekend. And so a lot of it's word of mouth. A lot of it is social media. I get very lucky with that.
You've got the bridal show that takes place here in January. Are there other similar shows that you go to?
No. And actually, with COVID the way it was, we didn't do the bridal show for the last couple years. And it's a good outlet to reach people. I feel like a lot of the clientele that go there have already pretty much chosen their date and chosen their venue and they're going for like the side vendors.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it because I love to talk to people. And who knows, if that bride's walking through, maybe she already has her date booked, but maybe her best friend hasn't done those things yet.
Yeah.
So you never know who you're going to reach out to.
How did you know who to go to, like for tables and chairs and linens, and things like that?
The internet is a
Lighting.
powerful thing. Yeah, I tell you what, just doing, just Googling it and reading reviews. And so that was a thing. Like we ordered one chair and we got the chair and we sat on the chair and we jumped on the chair. We pretty much beat the chair up. And then when we realized, yes, this is a good quality, then we ordered 700 of them. So, and same with the tables. Like we didn't want junk, obviously. They take some wear and tear. So you just order a few, see if you like it, and then you order a lot.
Did you go to different places, or was there a one-stop shop?
We shopped around. There's a lot of different places. And so like my local supplies or like my cleaning supplies, and I try to get that local. I do a lot with Ebert or now it's Western Supply. So, but I try to keep, my business as local as I possibly can. But
Sure.
there are things that, of course you have to outsource just because they're not available locally.
When everything was being built, did you have any challenges with things coming in over budget? Things that you were planning on, and then somehow maybe with the market or something, it was coming in higher? Did anything like that happen?
We did pretty darn good. I'm trying to think. No, again, the sprinkler system we didn't even budget that originally. And so that, of course, blew the budget. But I'm so glad that we did it. It's just a peace of mind thing. And it actually helped with our insurance anyway.
Yeah.
But, supply-wise, again, we had done enough construction that we had a pretty decent handle on it. It's gravel. It's stuff like you just don't realize how much fill's needed until you fill things. Like,
Yeah.
you have to, and the excavation, I think those things were a little bit higher than we anticipated, but that's a big parking lot to fill.
Oh,
with
yeah.
all the gravel that we put in.
Did you feel like there was a void to fill,
Yes.
and that was why you wanted to
Yeah.
do this?
I liked our option because, again, you get to choose your own food and beverage. And so it's nice because sometimes people want to do their own. And so it's a nice option for them to be able to bring in their own whatever they want.
Yeah.
There is an alcohol barrier as far as like certain things they can bring in, but sometimes, like hard liquor, they can't. So, we find places that would do a traveling bar or the people can apply for their own liquor license and that.
Have you ever considered becoming a full-service venue?
As far as bar and food?
Yeah.
No, I don't. It's been 8 years. Our kitchen's pretty small. It's more of a prep kitchen.
Yeah.
The staffing side of things, I'm thankful that we don't have all of that stuff. And the alcohol responsibility, I'm glad that I don't have that either. It's kind of nice to be able to, because once they sign the contract over, they kind of resume liability and basically they take on that responsibility.
Yeah. Okay. So do you consider yourself a year-round venue?
Yes. We never stop booking. You'll see it slow down in the months of January and February, February especially. And I'm okay with that because, of course, the snow and the ice can be more, than what you're wanting and the worry of removal. And we have that. We have all of those outlets to do, but no, our main season typically is March all the way through till December.
No kidding. Yeah, I was always fascinated because growing up, I always was under the impression there were June brides and September brides. I got married in September.
Did you?
Yeah. So I was amazed to then find out that people are getting married practically year round.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I love about it because everybody's so different. And that's my favorite part is I'm in the same room every weekend, but it looks so different every weekend. And it's that's my favorite part to see. Some people come in and they bring trailers full of stuff. And sometimes people bring a few boxes, and I love the simplicity and I love the details that some girls have, so it's just fun. It's fun to see, just again, different tastes and the room looks different every weekend. And I love that.
How much freedom do you give in terms of decorating?
I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot of restrictions. I'm not a big, huge confetti bomb fan, but if their heart's set on it, then I try my very best to fulfill that. And that's my goal. There are, of course, some safety, factors that you have to worry about. So we talk a little bit about that. But if it's something that they have their heart set on, I usually am pretty flexible on that.
Well, and not only do you have your barn, you've also got stuff outside as well, don't you?
The outdoor amphitheater?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of times people utilize that. So that's why our summer dates fill up so darn fast. But, fall is a pretty good one too. We get some really good fall weather. People don't mind being a little bit chilly.
Yeah.
Of course, there comes a point where the wind, the way it's been the last couple of weeks, people don't like that as much. But we do have a backup plan. And that's kind of one of the things that I do help with as far as guest count goes. Like, we can do a higher guest count, but the more people, the more tables, the less backup, option that we had if we have to move the ceremony inside.
What would you say your capacity is?
I mean, legally they say 390. I would never do that for a wedding.
Yeah.
I like to stick around the 280 and under for comfort levels. Mm-hmm. Now, if they're not having ceremony with us, which on occasion we have where somebody would do a church wedding and then just do a reception, then we can be a little bit more flexible on that higher number because obviously we don't have to worry about a backup plan.
Yeah. Well, obviously I have to ask the question, what happened during the pandemic?
Oh, the pandemic.
What happened in terms of weddings during that time?
It was, I joke that I usually have an answer for everything, and if I don't, I usually find one. And that was probably the first year that I answered, I don't know, a lot. And it was, more like, I'm not sure. And so luckily, I was there helping counseling my brides as I'm trying to counsel myself too, right? Yeah, no, it was, you do this, like I said, I've done this now, this will be my 8th year, and that's the first time that you actually hit where you're like, wow, I don't know what to do. So I got so lucky that almost all of our brides were so flexible and so kind, and they were able to just find a new date. And that's not an easy pill to swallow,
right.
When you have everything planned out. But when you don't have a choice, you just learn to be flexible.
So what does that mean when they had to find
So I had other dates open, and luckily they were able to just move. And so I really only had, we were closed down from March 17th till like the first or second week of June.
Okay.
And so I was lucky that I only had, I don't have the number off, but maybe 7 brides that just, here's my date options. Here's what I had open, whether from previous cancellations or dates that hadn't been booked yet. And they would just say, okay, I'll pick this one. I had a couple that were like, this is it. Like we had one that was in, the armed forces, and that was it. He was getting shipped off, and that was the only. So, we just did a reimbursement, wished him all the best, and crossed our fingers that, we could move on, not have too many more of those. But, I only had a few that were just like, couldn't reschedule.
Okay.
But, we had one girl just completely just skip over 21. She said, I'm just going to go to 2022. I was like, fine. So she did. So we just transferred everybody.
Yeah.
Because, what do you do? We didn't really have.
They appreciated the flexibility.
Oh, and it was kind of the give and take. Like, I will do anything for you. Then they, and they knew that, so they were helping me out as well. So it was a year of learning how to be flexible in the wedding industry, and sometimes that's not always easy.
Did you learn anything new through that experience that maybe makes you better at what you're doing now?
Yeah, just not to worry, I guess, as much. You started, and I joke that I wish I knew now what I knew then, or knew then what I knew now. Knew then what I knew now, sorry. Where I wish I would have been able to enjoy our time off a little bit more. But there's so many factors of concern that you're, writing numbers down every week when you're closed down, and you think, oh my gosh. And so, you focus a lot on that because, of course, you're scared of failure. Who isn't?
Yeah.
And so, learning that you can overcome obstacles that sometimes seem greater than yourself. But, we're open now, and it seems like such a weird, long ago memory that it almost like didn't even happen, which is weird. So
what about dental hygiene?
I still have my license.
Okay.
I still fill in very, once in a while. My old boss is wonderful. He still lets me fill in every now and then, or needs, and he still lets me, clean my kids' and husband's teeth. Because again, I'll keep my license. It's kind of something that you work hard for. You go to school for it. You just don't want to give that up, right? So it's there. And I miss my patients, and it's nice every now and then want to walk through the door at the barn, and I'm like, oh yay, or it's still near to my heart because that's what I went to school for.
Sure.
So
now, with the what percentage would you say is weddings with your facility?
98.
98.
Yeah,
okay.
I think I only do. But see, here's the thing: weddings book out so far out that by the time a banquet gets started to plan, we don't have any dates open.
Okay.
So prom was able to come in. So we do prom, and we do like a turkey banquet every year. That's kind of our continuing. And the 4-H banquet, we actually donate for that. But Yeah, so prom finally got in. So then now they book out every couple years. So they just keep that locked in.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of hold a little spot, and then they say, yes, they want it, and then we go. So we've had prom, I think we've had it now for the last at least 4 or 5 years. So.
Okay.
So that's fun.
What else do you do, Jennifer? I mean, I know that you currently serve on the Chamber's Board of Directors, and thank you very much for that. Is there anything else that you do?
We're heavily involved in Little League, Burlington Little League and West Burlington Little League. It's super important to me. So I'm on the boards for those. And, again, keeping it local. I work every weekend, so my poor kids don't get the experience or the option of the travel ball thing, which is okay. And then I know that there's kids out there and families out there that, financially or with work schedules can't do it. So Little League is very important to me because I want to be able to give children the opportunity, that don't have those, I don't want to call them luxuries, but those options to be able to play travel ball, to keep it local. And, I played Little League. I love the Sandlot. So I kind of think of the nostalgia of baseball. And so, we work really hard to try to keep the kids involved in that and just playing to get them out and get them exercise and teach them, how to be a team. So we serve on that. And again, that's starting to get in. And I also coach 2 softball teams.
Oh,
too.
You do?
So my
Not
daughters.
Not 1, but 2.
2. I have 2 daughters. So we can't just do one. So we, my husband and I and a friend of ours all coach minor league and major league. So
excellent.
Yeah, so that keeps us busy in the summer. So
any future plans for Barn on the Ridge?
There's always things. Your mind's always reeling. There's always things. People always like to come up and give you ideas, So, there's things that we talk about, but nothing's set in stone yet. It's good. You always think about how you can be, what's next for you kind of thing.
If you could dare to dream, would it be something to add on to the structure? Would it be to add a new structure, something else onto the property?
I think adding, there's always requests for a groom suite or a groom staging area. So that's always in the back of our mind. And, more storage because I want more stuff, I have a lot of decorations and a lot of props that I let people use because they've just been given to me over time. So it's hard to say no to stuff, but I'm starting to kind of run out of room. So we've talked about maybe building something like that to have, of course, there's always dreams. Like I said, I always joke if I was a little younger, we'd consider doing like a bed and breakfast out there. But
how about a bigger office? Because you do so much in such a small office.
It's funny. I don't do a ton. My home is, my office a lot too, because I'm off. My days off are Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I say day off quotation mark. We really don't have days off ever, but I do a lot of work at home when I'm, obviously on my days off when I do my paperwork and stuff. And so that office is it's nice, but it does what it needs to do.
Yeah.
So I would give up my office before I would build a bigger one. I think,
Gotcha.
I would give that up space wise and then just not have one. But we'll see. You just never know.
Last question.
Sure.
Utilizing your success story, what words of wisdom could you impart on somebody who wants to
just do it? I mean, of course it's easier said than done, but don't ever discredit yourself. I mean, and that was our thing. My husband and I, we weren't born into, riches, fame and riches. And so, usually things like this don't happen to ordinary people until you realize that it can. I mean, don't be afraid to take the risk. If you have a product that you believe in with all your heart and you're willing to work hard and be nice to people, I mean, lots of successes come with that.
Yeah.
And so I usually just say, go for it. I mean, again, with good planning and a good, business plan, which I learned is important. I mean, you can do great things. And again, if it's a dream that you can fulfill and work hard for, I say go for it.
Yeah. And your website, is it barnontheridge.com?
That is correct. And we also have Facebook and Instagram and all that fun stuff. So,
wonderful.
So yeah.
Well, Jennifer, thank you very much for coming in. It's wonderful to hear your story again.
Thank you.
And to share that with everyone. And so
thank you.
Hoping that everyone who hears this will be inspired.
There you go. Go do it. Well, thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
And we thank you very much for listening. And we will see you next time on All Things Greater Burlington.
Been listening to All Things Greater Burlington with Stephen Brody. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to catch all new episodes. To learn more about All Things Greater Burlington, visit greaterburlington.com/ATGB.
Bye.